Justin was completely awestruck by Amy. In the past few months, he's had a strong sense of isolation. To find out now that she was actually on his side the whole time was a huge shock. To him, it was all relief. He fell in love with the woman he would eventually propose to all over again. Informing him of her experiences in CROW, she shared her observations with him. They were finally able to have an open dialogue. "I want you to accompany me to a meeting with CROW. They might be able to assist. Maybe if they try." Amy tried to persuade him. No. He objected to it. Confronting Amy with his true identity was a big step, but telling a group of vampire murderers was a whole different ballgame. He was not guilty of any murders, but he wasn't completely blameless. How could he convince others that he was safe when he no longer believed it himself? Just then, the idea occurred to Justin that they may be able to turn over Milo to CROW. Milo had murdered before, and he appeared to take pleasure in doing so to prove they meant business when they said they wanted to destroy vampires. But despite his animosity toward Milo, he hoped nothing awful would happen to him. As a result, his thoughts went unspoken. "They don't know who you are." "I didn't tell anyone," he agreed with her because she made valid points. Unfortunately, the risks were far too high. He couldn't gamble with Milo or his own life. Why was he so concerned about Milo? Milo was unquestionably the villain. He might be able to escape if he assists them in finishing him. Amy became silent as she began gnawing on her knuckles, which indicated she had an idea. "Ah, I see now." Her bright eyes were nearly overshadowed by her grin. "You're correct, you shouldn't go up against CROW because we don't know how they'll react. However, we don't need to meet with them." "What do you mean?" Justin asked. He was disturbed by her grin and watched her as she leapt up, overjoyed with her own plan that she had yet to reveal. "CROW has a not-so-anonymous supporter. They act as a connecting point to which we can travel. They are not to blame for any vampire murders. First and foremost, we must explain ourselves to them. There's no harm in taking a dip to determine whether or not they can help us." After a short time, Grendel's physique had become as solid as a rock. "Milo is okay," he kept repeating to himself. "It's not possible for him to perish. Not before me," he said. "So, he promised." Grendel brought his fist-clenched hands up to his crown. His word was his bond. There is no way he would start lying to me now. His punch retreated only millimeters before it struck the wall. Grendel's mind was inundated with images of the doctor poking and prodding Milo. He was being subjected to experimental treatment. "Because I wasn't there, Milo became ill. I'm here now. Everything is going to be okay." He remembered the doctor's words about the need for blood tests. That was still an unusual concept to him. How did this magic function? He couldn't, however, focus his mind on this. He needed to calm down. Something he was generally bad at, but he didn't have anyone else. It didn't take as long as he thought, and to his relief, discovered that this wasn't as difficult as he had anticipated. He was completely unaware of his surroundings until he heard a hushed voice off in the distance. At first, he attributed the voice to Richard. However, the more he focused on it, the more baffling it became. As if trying to hear a conversion underwater. He moved slowly down the corridor, stopping in front of the wall where he had heard the voices. He was clearly getting closer to the source, but the noise was becoming fainter. With his ear to the wall, a new and unsettling feeling of fear overtook him. Suddenly, something hard and sharp grabbed him from behind. Before he could figure out what had caught his attention, he turned and saw Richard staring at him incongruously. "Exactly what are you up to?" Grendel tried to explain that he had heard something or someone in the room. However, the voices didn't seem right. Richard sighed with the frustration of someone who must constantly repeat themselves. "This is completely false. It's just a foolish rumor circulating in an empty room." "No, sir. These 2 guest rooms are always available in the event that any VIPs decide to pay us a visit. You cannot stay here to confirm for yourself that the rooms are haunted." This time, he was not speaking to Grendel, but to one of the numerous others who had inquired about it. Grendel lacked the guts to challenge him. However, the idea piqued his interest. He should probably ask around. Having a ghost in the house was not something that happened on a regular basis. The witches, on the other hand, insisted communication was simple for them. Few of them had previously conversed with him, and even fewer would do so now. Not after he was responsible for the coven's second head chopping. The rage in Richard's eyes was the first thing that brought him back to reality. "Don't even consider it. I finally managed to get folks to drop that ridiculous rumor." "You had best not have anybody bringing it up again." "I wouldn't," Grendel said, throwing up his hands in surrender. "Never in a million years would I even consider doing it. No, I'm serious. If I discover you were involved because I overhear rumors about you again." Grendel nodded his head in agreement. He couldn't place which Richard he was talking to. Richard might be a family man or a businessman. Or was this a hitherto unseen facet of his personality? When it came to business, Richard usually kept his cool. He only became emotionally invested in things that were immediately relevant to him. This was, however, an unusual crossbreed. He appeared angry, but his words were flat as if he were reading from a script. The doctor emerged from room 1002 at that precise moment. Richard swiftly turned from Grendel. "Doctor, I'm delighted to have bumped into you like this. You're exactly the man I was looking for." Richard now had a bright, threatening smile on his face. "How is your family doing, daughter?" As he approached the man, he placed an open arm around his shoulders. "So, shall I walk you out?" He then led the doctor to the elevators, where they both vanished.